Trapmore gang, one of the most embarrassing absolute meltdowns that we've seen since these Epstein files have come out is that of Microsoft founder Bill Gates. So he's been implicated in the Epstein files in a pretty disgusting way. And this is something that's been rumored to have been going around for years. So about 4 years ago, he did this very embarrassing interview where he basically explained the whole situation away, saying, oh, my meetings with Epstein were just charity related. This is 4 whole years ago, right? And there'd always been these rumors about, like, did his marriage fall apart? He had a kind of very low-key, expensive divorce from his wife, Melinda. And there was all these rumors. Was these Epstein Island allegations anything to do with your divorce? He just kind of swept it under the rug and just tried to move on from it. But the reality is he was apparently getting busy on that island. He was getting so busy on that island, he was catching diseases. All right. So look, let's just hear how he said it about 4 years ago, and then we're going to find out how this tune changed drastically with the recent leaks.
That time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with...
You know what's crazy? I'm no criminal psychologist, but like the way that he pulls at his wedding ring finger and you notice there's no ring on it anymore. I think this is just a classic tell. He's definitely just riddled with anxiety, riddled with shame and guilt. You can tell he doesn't want to answer the question and he's clutching at his ring finger. I feel like that's a very, very telling kind of little just display of guilt from Bill Gates, man. And, he knows that this is exactly what ruined his marriage. This is why he doesn't have a ring on his finger. This is why his wife hates him. It's actually very sad to see.
Raising money.
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have. Not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now. So there's nothing new on that.
It was reported that you continue to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful.
He's gassed. He said he in a pack now. He said he's smoking his ass. He dead. He can't say shit. He gone.
Very proud of what we've done in philanthropy. Very proud of the work of the foundation. That's what I get up every day and focus on.
That is crazy, all right? That is crazy. Unfortunately, the comments are turned off on this, and they would have been an absolute horror show. But what's interesting, okay, the timeline of the Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein link up, all right, the dynamic duo, okay, this goes back a hell of a long time, okay? This is an article from Newsweek about their timeline and of their relationship, and this goes all the way back to 2011. Now, this was published in 2021 before we knew the recent allegations, but this was pretty interesting, right? And it says Melinda Gates is said to have warned Bill Gates to stay away from Jeffrey Epstein after the couple met with the convicted offender in 2013 in New York. The Microsoft founder and his wife announced they filed for divorce last week, and the Wall Street Journal reported that the separation of the 25-year marriage was in the works since at least 2019. Melinda Gates was reportedly haunted by her husband's connection with the convicted PDF financier who died by suicide after he was jailed in 2019. Newsweek reached out to representatives for Bill and Melinda Gates for comment. The New York Times reports that Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein met numerous times over the years, starting from 2011. Here is the timeline of their relationship. Look at these fools. Look at these just potato-headed fools. Right? He's been overcooked. He's been undercooked. But anyway, this is Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein reportedly first met in January 2011 in New York City. On the occasion, Gates and Epstein were joined by Dr. Eva Andersson Dubin, a former Miss Sweden who Epstein once dated, and her 15-year-old daughter. Yikes. Yikes. I don't even want to speculate on what was going on with that. The New York Times also claimed Bill Gates sent an email about Epstein to colleagues in 2011 saying his lifestyle is very different and kind of intriguing, although it would not work for me. He also said that he stayed late into the night on this occasion, writing in the email, a very attractive Swedish woman and her daughter dropped by. I ended up staying there quite late. All right. However, Bill Gates spokesperson Bridget Arnold told a newspaper that the email was in no way meant to convey a sense of interest or approval. Cap. She said that Gates was referring only to the unique decor of the Epstein residence. Sure thing. You think we're dumb as fuck, don't you? And Epstein's habit of spontaneously bringing acquaintances in to meet Mr. Gates. Arnold also said of this meeting, Gates recognizes that entertaining Epstein's ideas related to philanthropy gave Epstein an undeserved platform that was at odds with Gates' personal values and the values of his foundation. The two men met again in 2011 on May the 3rd and were photographed along with James E. Staley, at the time a senior JP Morgan executive, and former Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers and Boris Nikolic, who was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's science advisor. Now, Bill and Melinda Gates met with Epstein in his Upper East Side mansion in September 2013, according to the Daily Beast. 2013 was 4 years after Epstein was sentenced to prison for soliciting a minor under the age of 18 for sex. The meeting was reportedly on the same day that the couple accepted the Lasker Bloomberg Public Service Award at the Pierre Hotel in New York City. In the same year, Bill Gates is reported to have flown with Epstein on his private jet from New Jersey to Palm Beach, Florida. That plane is the infamous Lolita Express that gained notoriety due to it being purposely designed for mid-air sex, as per The Sun. Gross. 2018, Bill Gates' meetings with Epstein were publicized and reported on in 2018, prompting a spokesperson for the tech mogul to say at the time that the meetings had focused on philanthropy. I met him. I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him, Gates told the Wall Street Journal in 2019. I didn't go to New Mexico or Florida or Palm Beach or any of that. Are you sure? He explained. There were people around him who were saying, hey, if you want to raise money for global health or get more philanthropy, he knows a lot of rich people. The same spokesman told Insider that in 2019, Epstein misrepresented the nature of his meetings with Gates while also working to insert himself behind the scenes without Gates' knowledge, and that Gates and Epstein never socialized together, and that the disgraced financier actively pursued a relationship with her client. Bill Gates regrets ever meeting with Epstein and recognizes it was an error in judgment to do so, Arnold said. Gates recognizes that entertaining Epstein's ideas related to philanthropy gave Epstein an undeserved platform that was at odds with Gates' personal values and the values of his foundation. On August the 10th, 2019, Epstein died by suicide, wink, at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City following his arrest on federal charges for the trafficking of minors in Florida and New York. In September 2019, Bill Gates told the Wall Street Journal of Epstein, I didn't have any business relationship or friendship with him. Cap. Now, in 2021, Bill and Melinda Gates announced their divorce in May. Over the last 27 years, we've raised 3 incredible children, built a foundation that works all over the world to enable all people to lead healthy and productive lives, they said in a joint statement. We continue to share a belief in that mission and will continue our work together at that foundation, but we no longer believe we can grow together as a couple in the next phase of our lives. And that's where the timeline suspiciously ends. But jump forward to 2024, okay? In the earlier Epstein file drops, not even this recent hot off the presses drop, Bill Gates would be present in some very suspect photos. This was going around a little while ago in r/Epstein. Shout out to them. There's always a subreddit. Am I not in r/Epstein? Let me get in there. It says Microsoft founder Bill Gates pictured with a girl in the new Epstein photo release. Now, I can't see her face, but you see the skirt, you see the button-up shirt. All types of wrong, okay? We're going to need to reboot this Windows right now and run in safe mode because this guy is a horror show. It says, look at her awkward body language. Creep. It's not looking good for Gates. All billionaires are trash. People saying, I suspect this is the real reason these people hoard their money long after they could possibly need anything more in life. We think it must be some mental compulsion, but in reality, it's that they need the continued power to protect them from all the horrible shit they've done and continue to do. Like they literally can't retire without risking being held accountable. Bill Gates is an easy target now because he has very little actual power. He mostly divested of Microsoft and the divorce probably hit hard too. Most of his political capital is all in his foundation, which is more PR than firm power. Had he stayed in control of Microsoft, he'd have one of the largest companies in the world to use and buy and trade favors. That's why Bezos, Musk, etc. aren't going anywhere. They will never give up their wealth because it's the source of their power and the power keeps them protected. All I can figure is Gates was too old school to realize this. He was operating like a Rockefeller or Carnegie, where you make your fortune and then run out the clock with PR, so you go into the grave a good guy with a lasting legacy. The new model is never retire and go to your grave with all your secrets secure. His legacy is in the toilet, okay? It's in the toilet. Now, obviously, that was 2024 when this embarrassing pictograph, let's call it pictograph, photograph or a picture, but now we're in 2026 and more serious allegations have emerged regarding Bill Gates in the newly released DOJ files. Basically, this was going around a few days ago. It says, in the newly released DOJ files, Jeffrey Epstein says Bill Gates caught an STD and requested antibiotics so he could secretly give to his wife, Melinda Gates. Crazy. Also mentioned stepping away from Bill and for asking him to engage in things that get near and potentially over the line into illegal. You're such a weirdo and creep that Jeffrey Epstein is saying he's got to step away from you because you're pushing him over to the line in things that are nearly illegal. Absolutely wild. So I'll read you the email if you haven't already read it. It says, Dear Bill, Billy, man, Billy. Dear Bill, I cannot believe that you have chosen, okay? I cannot believe that you have chosen to both disregard and discard our friendship developed over the last 6 years. I'm aware that incidents happen. It's how each of us has chosen to deal with this unfortunate event that has me dismayed beyond comprehension. You have decided to discharge me from my job, had Larry, your PR person, tell me that I engaged in morally inappropriate behavior, and then asked me to be a major actor in a cover-up so you can maintain the reputation you have worked so hard to achieve. Shortly after my critical eye operation, I spent my day having your emails read to me as so not to miss a beat. When I could see out of one eye, my first task was to correct my vision in that one eye so I could read them myself. I assumed the dedication to our relation ran both ways. Larry has now asked me to recommit to a confidentiality agreement and have categorically told me that you are of the firm mind that we should no longer have any direct ongoing business relationship, with a total disregard for its impact on the public perception of my reputation. You have requested that I diligently avoid the truth, tell people that Bill will not invest with me, and craft an answer that suits yours and Melinda's needs. In fairness, you did agree to send a letter of recommendation should a future employer ask for one. You have told me that Melinda insists on me ignoring our friendship, not even communicating with you unless Larry, is copied or present. Though you have consistently maintained that I could not have done a better job and that I was underpaid compared to my contribution. You then, beyond all sense of fairness and frankly decency, said that as generous compensation for keeping the Gates reputation intact, you would let me keep what we agreed I had already owned, the investment participations, and give me a total of 2 years severance, similar to that of Christine Turner, a casualty of a former accident. I can assure you that if the shoe was on the other foot, I would have said, Boris, this is not your fault. I confess to Melinda, you didn't. It was in a moment of weakness, and I promise that will do anything within my power to make it right for you. I have more money than anyone needs, and I do my utmost to structure something that you will not be penalized for my error. Lucky for me, I have enough money to mediate a horrible situation. Though it will not heal the injury, it will make you secure in your future. In addition, I will bend over backwards to make sure your next career is rewarding and on an upswing. I appreciate the fact that this event drastically alters your plans, and I'm very aware of your career path that you gave up to join the foundation. I'm very sorry, but as I believe time heals all wounds, the terrible pain felt currently will eventually pass. In that regard, I suggest that I buy you the house that you had your heart set on, and in addition to 5 years of severance, we'll buy you out of the investment contract that we had agreed. 30 to 40% of a $100 million partnership for $30 million in today's dollars. Terms and conditions to be agreed. That's what I would have done had I been in your shoes. What did I receive, however, was an unfriendly, strongly worded email telling me how employable I am and that I should not look to you for any significant financial help in the future. To add insult to the injury, you then subsequently, with tears in your eyes, implored me to please delete the emails regarding your STD, your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your PP. You also made it clear to me that I am not to refer to blank, as that's another topic that must remain between the two of us. In return for all of these requests, which I would have done without a second thought, I am not to attend meetings with Melinda. I should continue to provide you the same level of service and dedication that I've done so diligently until you are ready to discard me and our friendship sometime after the first of the year. I've attempted to weigh my options carefully. You're a great person who's done a great deal of good. I am concerned that if Melinda decides As you said, to file for a public divorce, the damage done to the pledge program alone would result in billions of dollars of money no longer being used for social good, as I'm sure that some wives and husbands would feel free to retreat from their commitments. The voice you have used so well to carry forth your ideals would, at least for some period of time, be stifled, and many good programs, by no fault of their own, would suffer. I am also acutely aware that my own voice and career would be damaged. And then he followed up, was from Jeffrey Epstein to, this is his own resignation letter that he sent to himself. I've decided to resign my position effective immediately with BG3 and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I've not come to this decision quickly or without a great deal of thought. During the past few weeks, I've been caught up in a severe marital dispute between Melinda and Bill. I have the greatest respect for my friend of 7 years, and I wish them both well. In my role as his right hand, I've been asked on multiple occasions, and in hindsight, wrongly acquiesced into participating in things that have ranged from morally inappropriate to the ethically unsound, and have been repeatedly asked to do things that get near and potentially over the line into illegal. Though it was kindly suggested that I make a transition to a new position after my 6 years of service, and that Bill would, in his words, give me a generous package, I feel it would be dishonest of myself and my future, from helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls, to facilitating his illicit trysts with married women, and to being asked to provide Adderall for bridge tournaments. I feel I owe it to my friends and future colleagues to admit a moral failure, to ask forgiveness, and to move on with my life. He snitched. He snitched. That's low-key snitching, all right? People are commenting on Reddit. They're saying men are filthy. Okay, reading this and not being at all surprised by the most heinous acts done by a monstrous billionaire sex pest, but being taken aback by the amount of typos, poor capitalization, spacing issues, and generally poor writing skills of an ex-professor PDF is really something I can't come to grips with. People saying, why are men? Melinda didn't have a divorce for nothing. Maxwell in her latest defense made that clear, I guess. All these predators need to join Epstein in hell. Gates has been cozying up to Trump the last few years after being a lifelong Democrat. He knew Trump had this dirt on him. They're all absolutely disgusting. People saying, I'm sorry, is this straight up saying he was giving Melinda antibiotics without her knowledge? If Bill had an STD, he'd have to keep giving them to Melinda more or less perpetually to ensure it didn't contract, right? If he was trying to hide it, that is, so he straight up gave her drugs for God knows how long, knowingly withheld info from his wife that he contracted an STD after he cheated on her. I know there's a lot of assumptions there, but it makes him a effing scumbag no matter which way you cut it. She must have found out at some point. It's very interesting that Gates' wife left him, but Hillary never left Bill. Crazy. Now, Bill Gates himself has apparently responded to the allegations that have come out. Seattle area billionaire Bill Gates issues furious response to Epstein files claims that he slept with Russian girls and caught STD, and suggests late pedophile was desperate to be his friend. Okay, let's see what the Daily Mail is saying about this. It says Bill Gates issues furious response to Epstein files claim that he slept with Russian girls and caught STD, suggests late PDF was desperate to be his friend. It says Bill Gates issued a furious response after the recent allegations. In a rare statement that clearly conveys the depths of his anger over the latest release of files, a spokesman for the Microsoft billionaire told the Daily Mail, these claims are absolutely absurd and completely false. Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. The only thing these documents demonstrate is Epstein's frustration he did not have an ongoing relationship with Gates, and the lengths he would go to entrap and defame. The emails were among hundreds of thousands of Epstein files released by the Department of Justice Friday morning. It also included images of Epstein and Gates together in numerous locations. Over the years, Gates tried to downplay his years-long relationship with Epstein, saying they did not have a business relationship or friendship, and he denied going to any parties. But there he is with the big man himself. It's not a good look. You look happy, you're smiling, you're grinning, you're cheesing. Okay. Enough said, basically. Okay. Now look, all right. Bill Gates attended the Australian Open in Melbourne on Saturday amid claims he slept with Russian girls and caught an STD. So he's still outside. Fair play. He's still outside. He's not letting it get him down. He's still out here looking for poontang by the looks of it. Okay. And basically, this just recaps. But basically, it is a big denial. Okay. Bill Gates pictured with his girlfriend, Paula Heard. He must have a type. He must have a type, man. The allegations are completely absurd and completely false. He out here shedding a tear. Okay. He looked like he out here shedding a tear in public. He looking old as hell, though. He looking haggard. He looking like he was still running Windows 98 up in there. Bare pictures of him with Epstein. They locked in. They locked the F in, having a little coffee, all right, with the loafers and everything, bro. It's crazy. We've seen this picture before. She wearing an AP. I ain't clocked. She wearing an AP. They got her right. Listen, man. Listen, they get bruh. So basically, we're seeing more and more pictures, more and more sordid images from the Epstein files. They hanging out, they cheesing it up. It is actually absolutely wild. Now, interestingly enough, Melinda Gates has actually responded. Okay, it's been going around.
He tried to get medication.
And basically, Melinda Gates has actually responded to the Epstein file suggestion that she got, you know, a sexually transmitted disease from Bill Gates. She received a virus. Okay, she didn't have McAfee antivirus software installed, and she did receive a virus from Bill Gates, apparently. So it's no joking matter, but for real, that is actually crazy. She definitely received a Trojan horse from Jeffrey Epstein. So let's hear what she had to say about the situation, man.
The emails in the file.
Actually, I think we got the full. Is this the Asmongold? Let's have the full thing.
I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment. Your ex-husband, Bill, is named in the newest tranche of Epstein files.
She guessed to be asking that question. You know it. She hyped. She like, I'm so glad we had this schedule. This is lit.
And there are a new alleged details about his past behavior. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond in whatever way you want to.
Well, let me say this. I think we're having a reckoning as a society, right? No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So, for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage. But I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
Yeah.
That it was there.
I have to put more words to the muck for context for our listeners. The emails in the file suggest that Bill Gates
This chick on the right. This chick on the right's a demon. Yeah. Just to put some context to that muck. Let me drag up that muck. Let me rake that muck real quick.
had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that.
Please respond.
Alleged behavior. But I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life. And I hope there's some justice for those now women, right? We see them standing up in front of microphones in D.C. What they went through is just unimaginable, I think.
It is really sad. I don't mean to make light of it with any jokes. Sometimes humor just sort of takes the edge off some of this really just depraved, fucked up stuff. But no, it's really sad to see what she went through, man. I mean, I think, no woman deserves to go through that. Look, getting cheated on is obviously just really nasty. You'd be better off just being upfront with somebody, letting them know, look, I'm trying to freak off, all right? We could end this marriage, or I could freak off, or, we could go our separate ways, or I don't know. But doing these secret rendezvous with Jeffrey Epstein, you're catching STDs and you're trying to slip something into her food to try and get her to heal from an STD you gave her. That is disgusting. Okay. To me, that's really not far off Bill Cosby and girls. You're slipping sedatives into their drinks. It's really not that different. It's a violation of somebody's personal space, somebody's personal boundary and the sanctuary of their own body. It's gross. Okay. So Bill Gates, You cooked, all right? We're going straight Apple, all right? Windows, you're going straight into the trash until we find out. Unless we find out Steve Jobs and Tim Cook was on that island, then we might have to go Linux or something, because it's just becoming absolutely ridiculous. Nobody is safe. But you know, I definitely feel really bad for Melinda Gates, what she went through. Bill Gates definitely was on some just gross weirdo shit. And you know, it's unfortunate that this came out in this way and that she's been dragged and embarrassed. You know, I guess Rachel Martin had the fire booking that Melinda Gates was booked to be on the show today after all this came out. But it is just really sad to see her response and how she's going through with all of this stuff. So yeah, man, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I think it is very, very sad. And you know, it's very, very messed up. You know, before we go, tell you what, I'll read you a few comments from this, which is essentially like, this was the article where Bill Gates basically denied the STD rumor, and the people on Reddit basically are not buying it all. They're saying Bill Gates lied and said that he was never at any of Epstein's houses. Then photos of him at the house show up. When you lie about the small stuff, you put everything else you say into question. Bill's done a lot of good with his health initiatives. Shame to have tarnished that with this. Bill resigned from the Microsoft board because he was pursuing romantic relationships with women who worked at the company. What's funny about that is that it took Microsoft 40 years to notice. Think about how he met Melinda and where. You think Melinda was the only woman who caught his eye? Epstein didn't create a new sin for Bill. He just exploited it. Okay, people saying it didn't take 40 years to notice, it just took 40 years to admit that they knew. The internet's just undefeated. That's Bill Gates after visiting Epstein Island. He peeing straight flames. This incident is the reason the divorce proceedings were initiated. People saying not exactly. There's references to her wanting a divorce back in 2013. But he was already freaking off with Jeffrey Epstein back then. And she mentioned a few times in the years that, I guess it was more of an attempt to save face and distance herself from the shitstorm that was inevitably coming. Saying then, why did Melinda leave you, Bill? Because he had affairs. Pretty common reason. They're saying the affairs are with the minors. Okay, I read that memo. It comes off as a weird revenge fantasy journal entry. Not something that definitely or clearly happened. It's bad to have had anything to do with the monster Epstein. But let's put it this way. Gates is one of the richest and arguably smartest men in the world. Do we really believe he wouldn't have access to antibiotics on his own and would be so dumb to ask Epstein for them? Are there any records of Gates sending Epstein tons of cash or whatever it was that he was trying to extort from Gates? Epstein was a psychopath who, amongst his many crimes, groomed everyone around him. He particularly targeted rich, powerful, and influential people for manipulation and blackmail. Gates comes across as a garden variety entitled man who happens to have billions of dollars. There's no other stories about him like this, whereas there are always other rumors and accusations surrounding Epstein's close friends like Trump, Clinton, and Dershowitz. At this point, nothing surprises me, but I'm not seeing enough about this to take it at face value. People saying, yep, a lot of stories around Bill and women, probably most have a grain of truth, but I have a hard time thinking someone with his means had to ask someone like that for antibiotics to deal with the clap who isn't his private physician. That's actually a very good point. So some people aren't buying it. Okay. How dare you call me out for something that clearly happened? I'm furious. Okay, I'm furious. They're saying he's lied constantly about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, but you can totally believe him this time, all right? So he'll surely sue for defamation and open the Epstein files for discovery, right? Right? Probably not. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of this man. Bill Gates, he's cooked, all right? Chat, he's cooked. Commenters, subs, he's cooked. He's fried, okay? He is overly cooked. He's running slow. He's running on old software. He's running on Windows 95, okay? And we're going to have to update the software and just clear the hard drive. It's time to wipe the hard drive, okay? Delete everything. But I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Today was a little bit of a different tranche of videos. I hope you enjoyed them. I will be back tomorrow with more content, and I will be dropping some full documentaries on the main channel very soon. So stay tuned, stay locked in, and thank you so much for supporting me. I'm out of here, guys. Peace.